So welcome to our session this evening. I'm using comfort and care of volunteers to retain and recruit members. We're happy to have Alex Johnson here with us again this evening. Dave, anything you would like to add before we move on?
No, other than we really appreciate Alex taking his time to spend with us on these Thursdays this month. And we did get some feedback from last week's presentation, most of which was incredibly positive.
Okay,
and
got him on.
we're already seeing clubs starting to think outside the box and starting to focus on partnerships and relationships with other community organizations outside of Rotary as they put together their service programs, which is exactly, Alex, what I think our goal was to do. So
that's exciting.
Thank you for getting us on track and on the path, and we look forward to tonight's presentation as well.
Excellent. That's exciting to hear, Dave. Well, let's go do this because I know we've got I've got a number of things involved, or there's going to be activity. And so what I wanted to do is, one, screen share. That would help. And then two, so this is what we're talking about today. And then as people come in, see, we have a good 6, 7 of us now. What I'd like everybody to do is kind of quickly introduce themselves, basically who they are. What I'd like to hear is who you are, how long you've been in Rotary, and what club you're in, and then what role in Rotary are you doing right now that you are most excited about? Because a lot of us have different roles. So which one do you enjoy the most? So, want me to start? Alex Johnson, this is my 20th year in Rotary. I think I've got 2 roles, Innovative Club Advocate and the Assistant Rotary Coordinator. I like Innovative Club Advocate because I get to do stuff like this. And so what else did I say? Oh, my club is Plano West Rotary Club. There we go. Don't be shy.
Roger Utnamer. Go ahead, Nancy.
Roger, you started. Go for it.
Well, Roger Utnamer, 40 years plus in Rotary, Wausau Early Birds Rotary Club. And my position is something that I included in the employment agreements for my staff while I was a broadcaster. And it's very simple. And any other duties that may be assigned. I'm foundation chair and district governor nominee.
Which one do you like the most? Most fun?
I have to tell you, I said yesterday that I believe that I was congenitally conceived to be a foundation chair because it is really exciting to see the great works that the foundation does that are depth plunging, circumference expanding, life-changing, because people in Rotary are so incredibly generous.
Awesome. Thank you, Roger. Who's our next volunteer? Too many shy people. You guys know each other. Come on.
I'll go next. I'm Nancy Leipzig. I am a member of the Appleton Rotary Club, past member of the Oshkosh Southwest Club, past president twice. And honestly, I am enjoying the district trainer role. Especially last year, my first year as district trainer with pets and with Tricon was absolutely phenomenal. Left both of those events just completely energized and really in awe of the great leaders we have in our districts in this zone. So I'm going to hand it off to the other great Nancy.
Oh, all right. So I'm Nancy Hikes. I have been in Rotary for 28 years. Appleton Club, Nancy's Club, and now in Lakeland, Minocqua, where we live. My roles are, I'm torn because I love working with Nancy this last year on these district roles, especially these event planning and getting to meet folks and think about breakout sessions and stuff like that. But I also enjoyed the role in my club to restart our service committee, which had really languished. So
awesome. So we've got the double Nancy's have gone.
Who are you handing it off to, Nancy?
I think Barb, she just unmuted.
Yeah, I
her.
can go. So
How about-
I'm Barb Mim. Good evening, everybody. I'm from Greater Portage County Rotary. So that's Stevens Point area. We have 2 clubs in the Stevens Point area. We're the bright and early 7 a.m. I'm halfway through my club presidency, but my other role is also community service chair. And frankly, I like the community service chair part of it probably a little bit better in that there isn't quite as much worry, let's put it that way. And I love getting out in the community and finding out what's going on, particularly now that we're not quite as worried about COVID. So many of the things that we volunteer at are happening again. So I'm really excited about that.
That
And
is
I've been a Rotarian about 10 years.
awesome. Thank you, Barb. Next. Dave, who are you?
I'll go. I'm Dave Anderson from the Wausau Early Birds Rotary Club. I'm about a 35-year Rotarian. I originally joined the Rotary Club of Wausau, the Noon Club. I was also a member of the Rotary Club of Fond du Lac in District 6270 earlier in my career, and I've been pleased to be most recently associated with Early Birds, of which I'm a past president. I currently serve as the district governor, and I think of all the roles that I've had in my Rotary career, I have to say I'm enjoying the current role that I hold right now. It's such a privilege for me to travel this great district and have a chance to meet with so many outstanding Rotary leaders and Rotary Club members and see firsthand the kind of work that's being done in our communities and the kind of support our local Rotary clubs are giving to international projects. And I've learned more about the impact that my own district is having in their communities and throughout the world than I have in all the years I've been a Rotarian. And I'm very impressed with what I see. So thank you, Alex, for the opportunity to introduce myself.
You're welcome.
Okay, Alex,
Hey,
this is Julia Wallace, also Green Bay Rotary Club.
Hi.
Happy to be here. I'm sorry.
no, go for it.
Again, District Governor-elect following in Dave Anderson's big footprints. Just happy to learn more about how we can serve the community and invite more non-Rotarian members into our service projects. Thanks for being here.
Well, but what we're asking is, of your roles in Rotary, what's your most favorite?
Okay, sorry, I came in late, not uncommonly. My roles in Rotary, I love being the president of our club. I just thought it was a wonderful, I like being able to look outside and see where people are, where they are, and how we can make connections to people. And so I'm looking forward to that as a district governor too, to see a connection in one club and a connection in another club and how we can interrelate them.
That's awesome. Because I'm a friend, I'm going to tell you, you should spell your last name correctly.
I know it. Yeah. You know,
Oh, you muted yourself. We missed all that.
yeah, I didn't want to really explain myself. So I screwed.
Diane, I think you're muted.
I'm sorry, I've been trying to get Dennis Rader's trying to get on and he
Oh.
can't get on. He did not get an invite. So I've been trying to forward my invite to him so he can get on. Is there someone there that can send him an invite?
They were all on the original email, all 3. The original invitation had the 3 of them, I think.
How about as Diane introduces herself, somebody can just forward it to him, because it's just
Yeah, if
click
you
the
would,
link in
please.
email.
Yeah, his email is loveon234@aol.com, I think. But I'll go give him another shot. I'm Diane Kepler. I'm co-president of the Green Bay West Rotary Club. I've been in Rotary for 19 years. I have been president several times. I've been assistant district governor one time. And I'm currently co-president with Dennis Rader.
So what's your most exciting position you've had in Rotary or fun?
Right now, trying to rebuild our club. That's exciting. No, they all were. Every one of them, every year, everything I did with the club, I just loved. I think my favorite part, though, is when I was membership chair. And I was also president the year before, and I got our group from 19 to 32 by bringing a lot of females in.
Awesome.
And
Sounds
I was,
like
well,
a future DMC, Dave.
huh?
Or Julia, it sounds like a future DMC here.
Quite yet. Look, I'm gonna excuse myself. I gotta go get Dennis on.
See, she didn't deny it. Hey, just recruited for you.
I just did send Dennis the link.
So
Okay.
who's left? Tammy. Tammy hasn't gone. She's all hiding there in her screen.
Oh, Dennis is here.
Tammy, would you like to introduce yourself? Tell us. I don't think she's there.
Tammy, are you there?
This is why you don't want screens off.
I know.
Okay, so Dennis, where do you go?
There he is.
Oh, there he is.
He's
So-
right there.
You could introduce yourself, who you are, how long you've been in Rotary, what club you're in, and of all, you don't have to list all your positions you've done, but what has been your most favorite role you've had in Rotary?
Dennis is muted.
There we go. You hear me?
That was great. Awesome. Thank you, Dennis. Okay, let's move on. No, I'm joking. So go ahead, introduce yourself.
Okay, Dennis Rader. I've been in Rotary since 1976. The most exciting part of Rotary were the exchange students that we hosted, 7 of them over the years. 2 of our sons were in exchange students, and we have, through Rotary, extended our family internationally, and we now visit them with their children. And we truly are an international family out here on a farm outside of Green Bay.
That is awesome. That probably sounded like the most exciting thing of anybody. 7 kids you've hosted. That's phenomenal. Well, good deal. Well, I wanted to just kind of let everybody tell us who they are. Just it's a shame we're going to miss Tammy here, but I'm sure you guys know who she is. And so because this is being recorded, some of you things will be repeated for those that are watching the recording and knowing that they may not watch all of it. So I'm basically going to kind of bring everybody back. What we're doing here is improving the membership of your district. And we can see over the last 11 years that we dropped from 1891 into 1188 at the end of last year. And last year we lost 64 members. And this is what we're talking about today is really pertinent, because a lot of times we worry about getting new members, but really, if we just didn't lose our old, we'd be at 1891 if we didn't lose members. And so the retention is really a bigger and actually more important issue, because we get the new ones, but we still lose them. And so that's why part of what we're talking today is about how Comfort and Care helps you to retain and recruit. And it's really, any of you that saw me at your training assembly in Green Bay, we kind of talked about this, but we're going to go a little bit more into it. And this next slide, I kind of bring up to demonstrate that it can be done. Because a lot of us, we've got a lot of Rotary veterans here. My 20 years is kind of like tiny compared to Roger's at 40. And so we've all heard a lot of presentations in Rotary, and a lot of times there are a lot of theory, and the people giving them actually haven't accomplished what they're talking about. And whether you're in business or Rotary, when you hear a theory that hasn't been proven, you're like, okay, whatever. We hear a lot of them. And so the reason why I bring up Plano West Rotary to say, one, it's not a theory, it's a proven, and it's actually, and it works. And that's kind of why Rotary has me talking about it, as well as governors, directors, and even the training area. So what we see is during COVID, Plano West Rotary tripled its membership. This was during COVID year, when everything was horrible. And then the next year, we gained a membership as well. So it wasn't like a one-shot wonder. It was 2 years having consistent service. In member engagement is really important, especially a lot of what we're talking about here. And now, not everybody's going to triple in membership. That wasn't the goal. Honestly, this year, my goal was to get to 25 members. That was my presidential goal starting the year. And then when COVID hit, I'm like, okay, we're just going to worry about keeping people. This was unreal, but we didn't expect the strong desire in the community to volunteer and do good. Because as we know, that's not a Rotary emphasis. Normally, someone says, what is Rotary? Well, come to our meeting. We have great speakers. That's like one of the most horrible recruiting pitches ever. Where if you say, hey, we're going to go help in the community, that's an easy pitch. The pitch is help, and then people join. And so then I throw this out. So it's not just about members. Actually, this slide I'm more proud of, in that we changed our demographics to represent our community. We went from no women, basically, 3 women out of 21 members to 50%, 50 greater, which is the population, people of color, got young people involved. And we did it through the service. And so something else that you guys, I always focus on, anybody that's been in an organization, your mission is supposed to drive you. And so I always have a mission whenever I do any speaking, because a lot of I'm also a Rotary Leadership Institute facilitator. And one of the sessions we talk about the mission, and invariably 95% of the students have never seen the Rotary mission or vision statement. That's a travesty. And so I always point it out. We notice what we do, provide service to others. We provide good programs for our meetings. No, we provide service to others, promote integrity, advance world understanding, goodwill, and peace through our fellowship of business, professional, and community leaders. So through our fellowship is where we do all these actions here. And so that's kind of where my big focus is. Grow Rotary through service is kind of a moniker that we're implementing in a lot of different areas. Mike Phillips's district, what is that? Is he 62? Is he 50 or
70?
When he found out Dave was using Grow Rotary through service, Mike's got to be the renegade. I don't know how many District Governor Mike Phillips. So it kills me. He's like the Alex's plan is what he calls it. I'm like, dude, just go Grow Rotary with service. It works better. So when he does his visits, he talks about Alex's plan, which I don't want to do. But if anybody knows Mike's, he's not going to listen to you. He's going to do what Mike does. But his district he's doing the same thing. He's trying to find clubs that want to serve. And then when they say they want to serve, then his team gets in and helps them do things in the community. Today, we're going to talk about the importance of retention and attraction. Jennifer Jones calls it comfort and care. And that's kind of her big focus. Next year, Gordon McNally, he's already put out his theme, which Julia got to have fun in Orlando on, but one of his big focus is also on the club experience. Same thing with Stephanie Urchek, who is the president after Gordon. All 3 of them in unison are going to focus on the club experience. And when they're saying that is what happens when people are involved in our club, because survey after survey after survey, Rotary's been doing a lot of them lately, is people leave Rotary not because of Rotary International, not because of the district, not because of the Rotary Foundation, but it's about the club experience. And so we're going to see a lot more communication on how do we improve the club experience. So when people show up, whether they're members or non-members, volunteers, speakers, they have a great club experience. And so they stay. That's our retention thing. And it's also attraction as well. So anybody that was in Green Bay when I spoke there, I had this chart up. And there's 4 action plans, or there's 4 actions in Rotary Strategic Plan, which is called the Rotary Action Plan. And one of them is enhance participant engagement. And if you notice, it's participant. It isn't members or Rotarians, it's participant. And when you have a service project, who participates? People, Rotarians and non-Rotarians, right? We're all participants. And so these are some common techniques that people, organizations, we use to make somebody feel welcome. You know, building rapport, mirroring techniques, you know, what are their interests in? Smile, get them to talk, listen attentively. These all, it's a nice little chart, but think about it. When somebody shows up at your service project and you do these things, like for example, hey, Diane, how you doing? It's great that you are volunteering with us. How did you hear about this service project? And you'll say something, oh yeah, we know them. They are great. You know, oh, you're a lawyer? You know, we have some lawyers over here. Wow, you guys might know each other. That's how you make somebody feel at home. That how often do we do that? We don't. We just say, welcome, get to work. And we do that with our members as well. Thank you, get to work. Good job, you're a good member. Well, people don't feel bonded in that. You know, they want to be connected. You know, when you talk to them, talk about them. Don't talk about Rotary. We all joke that when somebody shows up at a Rotary event, they're usually asked to join Rotary about 5 times before they leave. That's no fun. Talk about them. You know, they're going to want to join Rotary if they like the experience. You don't have to like ask them. I often use the analogy of joining Rotary is like getting married. So when somebody shows up for the first time, don't say, let's get married. Let's go on a date. Do another project. Hey, let's get to know each other before we talk about marriage. You know, so when you think about joining Rotary as getting married, you wouldn't ask somebody that you just met to get married. Well, you don't ask them to join Rotary. Get to know them, find out what their interests are. You know, use humor, be vulnerable, use their name. I don't know your name, but you need to join Rotary. You know, we all know that's what Rotarians do. It's all about the ask. Here's an application. I remember I was in a club, actually my club, and we had a certain person that prided himself. Whenever we had a visitor, he gave him an application. He thought that was the greatest thing to do. Well, it doesn't work. I've officially recruited 50 people to Rotary. I'm on the membership society. I think it's like the gold level. I've recruited a lot of people, and I don't do it by asking them when I first meet them. I do it by getting to know them, asking them to serve. And then when they serve for a few times, then I talk about, have you ever thought about joining Rotary? Usually they say, oh, I don't have time. And I say, well, you're doing what Rotarians do. What do you mean? You're volunteering. That's all I have to do. Yeah, that's it. You know, because I already know they're interested in it. And so these are just some of the things you do to build rapport, to make somebody feel comfortable. And so the big question is, can it be done on a wide scale basis? Can your club members do it? What we had, it's kind of funny, Dennis talked about Rotary Youth Exchange. For the 2 years I was president, when we had our growth, we had a membership chair who was a third generation Rotarian. Her grandfather founded the Reynosa, Mexico Rotary Club, I think 83 years ago. He was president. Her father was a past president. Both her and her sister were Rotary Youth Exchangers and Interact, Rotaract. You know, now she's one of her daughters in Switzerland on the long-term Rotary Youth Exchange. So she was born into Rotary, literally. And her parents go to all the conventions. And I met her because me and her husband were friends. But she was our membership chair during all this growth. English is a second language, and she's a shy person. So you're thinking, how is she membership chair? Because she was a loving, giving, caring person. So when people joined our club, she embraced them. When she was at service projects, she would go out of her way to get to know people. She never asked them to join. She said, don't ask me to go recruit people, but she can take care of people. And we had the greatest success. Everybody knew her. She connected them. She was a connector. That's who she was. And it was very successful. So this slide, what I'm doing is showing some pictures of our club projects. And I would say, you know, it's probably about 70-30 non-members and members, which is traditional, is how we would like to design our projects. And so
Alex, hey, Alex, you're gonna need to share your screen again. I stopped
oh,
sharing.
you dropped it? Oh,
I did.
When was
And
it dropped?
Just a minute ago.
Oh, okay.
And
Thank
I
you
also
for
want to
telling
share
me.
that Tammy added in the chat that she's new to Rotary, and she's going to be president in 2 years. And at this point, she can only listen in on the conversation. So thanks,
Okay.
Tammy.
So when you look at this, I would say there's pictures of different projects we did. And even though about 70% of the people aren't Rotarians, they all look all part of the same group, don't they? Did you tell that 70% are not Rotarians when you look at these pictures? One, because everybody's wearing the same t-shirt, right? And two, everybody's just out there working together, looking camaraderie. A lot of these people didn't even know each other before the service project, but we're really promoted a lot of togetherness. Now, this next, I want to focus on members. So knowing that these group of people are members and non-members, let's talk about the member side. If you guys are at an event and you have members there, let's say it could be a service project, it could be a district event that a lot of your club members are going to, or even a meeting, what could you do to make that club member feel more comfortable? Especially if they've been in Rotary 3 years or less, which is usually when we lose the most members of those in Rotary 3 years or less. So I'm going to drop this and ask everybody here to give an idea of what you could do at your club event with a new member to make them feel more at home, to feel part of the family. Who would like to go first? Otherwise, I'm picking on people. Diane, you're muted. Oh, let me unmute her. Diane, you're muted, so we aren't hearing all your great wisdom.
I would assign a mentor to her, a friend that would walk her through, introduce her.
Wait, Diane, what I'm saying is not a big plan. At that event, what are you going to do at that event to make that person feel at home at that event? Because assign them a mentor and everything, that's like down the road.
Yeah, okay, down the road. I would make it a point to welcome her, ask her questions, talk about them, and just be like a friend.
Awesome. Now, nobody else can take what Diane said. That's what happens when you go first. You get first dibs on the great ideas. So thank you, Diane. Who's going next? What else can you do at that event, whether it's a meeting, a service project, a district conference, and you see a member that's only been in Rotary 3 years or less? What can you do to make them feel comfortable and at home, knowing your goal is to make sure they don't quit because they feel left out?
Engage them.
So Diane, don't take away somebody else's idea. You already had a good
I
one.
didn't say anything.
Invite,
out loud.
go sit with them. Go sit or work with them and not with the folks, you know.
So go sit with them and do whatever they're doing with them. That's a great idea. Thank you, Nancy. See, now the other Nancy, she was probably going to use that idea.
I was gonna say, first of all, make eye contact, approach that person, say, hi, I'm Nancy. I see your name is, and then try to find something that we have in common.
Awesome. Thank you, Nancy. Barb.
Well, this might be harder in a very large club, but in our club, which is only 28 members, I try to pay attention in terms of particularly, this is an example, we have one relatively new member who recently changed jobs. So being knowledgeable about something with that person's life, and instead of just chit-chatting, ask specifically, well, how is it going? And I just think it's hard in a big club. I get that, but in our little smaller club, I've really been working at trying to be more attentive to specifics about the club members.
That's an awesome idea. And it's not hard in a large club. It's actually easier because you probably have more new people that you get to know. You know, because a person's a person, whether it's a large club or not, or a small club, you know, and you probably have more club members that should be able to do that as well. Because my first club was 130 members when I joined. That was 20 years ago. Unfortunately, they're in the 40s now. So they exhibited a loss. But even at a large club, I was able to get to know people. I had no choice. I was new. So I'm the one that went out of my way to get to know everybody. Thank you, Barb. Dave, you had your hand up, I think.
I would engage in a conversation and find out specifically what it is that they're most passionate about. What drove them to join Rotary, and brainstorm a little bit about what we can do at the club level to help them meet whatever that specific need is, so that they can engage in something that they really feel strongly about.
That is exactly what I did as president my 2 years. Whenever somebody turned in an application, I personally called them, and that was one of my missions. The question is, what do you want to get out of Rotary?
Right.
And what can Rotary do to help you meet your passions? And a lot of times, and I would ask them, do you volunteer with other nonprofits? And that's how I would build my potential nonprofit partnership list, because you get a new member that they've probably volunteered before. And if they find out from the club president that their club is interested in helping a nonprofit that means something to them, and they could actually lead a project to do that, that was kind of embedding them with the club. They're like, hey, these guys immediately help what's important to me. I don't want to leave them. So that was it. And as president, I did that. Someone said, oh, that's too. We went from 21 to 63 members. So I did that with like 40 something people. So yeah, people can do it, because most clubs aren't going to be adding 40 people, you know. So if I could do it, and I run my own company, I had a family, any club president can do it, or the membership chair. But once again, my membership chair was shy. So I took it from her. She will take care of them, but she's, you know, the initial one. So we kind of tag teamed it. But yeah, great idea, Dave. Roger, you got your virtual hand up.
I did a couple things, Alex, when I was the club president. If someone missed a couple meetings, I would call them up and say, hey, we miss you. We hope you come back soon. And they'd say, hey, I'm glad I was missed, and they many times come back. The second thing that is very important and has a deep value is to send people handwritten thank you notes for what they're doing for the club, that they're a new member and you're glad to meet them. Just little things, because there are many people in Rotary that make valuable contributions that are often on or under appreciated. And I would get thank you notes for sending thank you notes. And
That's awesome.
I really want to do that again as I move up the DG line, to simply recognize that sincerely expressed affirmation is the missing ingredient in many of our human relationships.
It is. And that's why people leave. They're like, I'm doing all this and nobody appreciated me. I remember my last meeting at my second year as president. We have a very working class club. So a lot of people, meaning they had jobs, and so they weren't showing up at a noon meeting, but they didn't have to. We wanted them to show up at the service projects. And we had a lot of them we had like, I think 27 committees that were just doing different things. And they don't show up at meetings because they have jobs. So I made a point of recognizing all of our leaders and pointing out the ones that don't show up at meetings. That doesn't mean that they aren't doing something. Like, for example, my wife, she's in charge of 3 different committees. Her 3 years in Rotary, she has never been to a club meeting, because she works in Dallas, which is like a 45-minute drive. And that would be like a 3-hour lunch, and she would be fired. But outside of the meetings, she is doing a lot of different things. And so you're right, Roger. A lot of times people only get recognized when they show up at a meeting, and a lot can be done without showing up at a meeting. And you just got to let them know that.
Raj, I have to tell you, I'm a Paul Harris fellow because of your thank you note.
Oh, you better be writing more of those notes then, buddy. You're gonna boost your foundation
Wow.
numbers.
Well, that made my day. That's wonderful.
That is
It's
awesome.
it's not the only reason, but it was the tipping point.
Well, thank you for sharing that.
All those recordings, start doing handwritten notes.
Mhm.
Who else has not gone? I think I see Dennis, Julia, Tammy. That's who hasn't gone yet.
Okay, this is Dennis. I have two sons, and when they were growing up, they were asking how they could get to know people. And I pointed out, I said, there is one friend of our family, Jack, who everybody thought was the greatest conversationalist there was. And I said, well, the next time we get together, listen to him and see what he says. Well, the next time we got together, we, talked. And then I asked him, I said, what did he say? He said, he didn't say anything. He just asked questions about us all the time. They loved him. And that is a skill which they are using in their life today. I think
Awesome.
that is perfectly applicable to Rotary.
So Dennis, tell me, at your next club event, what are you going to do to a member that's been in Rotary 3 years or less, using what you just taught us?
Well, we're going to be visiting a project for Foster the Village, which is providing clothes for foster children. I'll ask them why they're there. Why are you here? What is it about this that really, warms your pipes? That people love to hear about themselves. That is the basic part of a conversation. We all get PO'd when somebody keeps rambling on about themselves. It's boring. We say, oh my God, why don't the guy just shut up? The reverse of that is ask them to talk, and they think you're great.
There we go. This is a great membership retention idea session we have here. Julia, are you there? Julia Wale?
Hey, it's a Scottish spelling. And I think it's been said indirectly, is I'd invite them to somewhere.
But they're already there.
Pardon?
You're at the event with them. You're volunteering together.
I know, but we're going to invite them to another event.
Oh,
Just keep them engaged, or even invite them out to coffee to, again, learn more about them, as Dennis said. But yes.
have a second date. Right? To ask them on a second date.
Correct. Ask them on
There
a
we
second,
go. That always works, right? It's like that.
on occasion.
Very few people get married on the first date. That's an awesome idea. So Tammy is going to type stuff in, right? So do we see anything in chat?
I do not, but I'll keep an eye out. So Tammy, if you have thoughts, please enter in the chat.
Awesome. So now that everybody kind of gets it, what we can do with, because like I said, the membership loss statistically is within the first 3 years of Rotary, especially that year one. Then when it comes up to paying dues again, they're like, yeah, this wasn't really worth our investment. Then year two, it really hits it. Then year three. So if we could get them past year three, then they're more engaged. And so that's kind of why I'm saying focus on those first 3 years of Rotarians. And it's really get them connected with people. Everybody says like, oh yeah, get them tied to a project. Well, sometimes they just need to like the people in order to find a project. Because if you don't like the people you're with, who cares what the projects are? And so what can we do to educate other people in your district to do the same as what you guys are saying here? Because we have like what, 8, 9 people. Well, how do we expand that out to how many people I should look at your current membership list? How many people in your district? We got to get everybody to do this. Dave, where are we?
1178.
What? She's got it.
1174, actually. After
1174. So how do we get 1174 people to use these techniques with other people in the club?
Nancy,
Oh, I was going to ask you that question, Alex, to say, we can talk about our individual behaviors, but what was your experience about it being infectious to other folks in the club?
Well, part of it
Not just sort
is,
of sitting with people they know and, and make sort of putting it on the leaders to be the
what's
connecting
interesting,
people.
well, what we did was we put it on the membership committee. Most people take, like, for example, anybody's heard me speak, I use the analogy, I have a speech called How to Grow a Rotary Club Like a Business. And if you think of the business, our members are the employees. And who takes care of the employees in a company? What department?
Human resources.
Now, as human resources, do they focus on the existing employees or do they put most of their effort into recruiting new employees?
Recruiting
Existing.
new.
No,
Today,
they focus on
today it's
existing.
recruiting new.
Training, development, all of that. That's where they focus. They only do recruiting when you have a position that opens. And so that's not their major job. A lot of times they outsource recruitment. So that's the problem with our membership committees. Our membership committees are focused on recruiting. And recruiting is not our problem. It's retention. We lose more people than we recruit. So what you asked what our club did, remember I talked about our membership chair, she was not a recruiter. She recruited nobody to our club personally, but she embraced everybody. So when she showed up at a service project, she was less worried about doing the work, but meeting all the people. She was connecting people, and that's what her committee did. She had a part of her committee was, Roger talked about when people didn't show, he would call them as president. Well, we had like 3 or 4 people that would do that, but we wouldn't say, we didn't see you at a meeting or when are you going to show? We would say, are you okay? Is everything okay with your family? Especially during COVID, because you don't know what's going to happen when you don't see somebody, especially if they already had some other illnesses and everything. And so I told them, don't ask just to show back up at the meeting, because we could care less if they show at the meeting. Show that we care about you. And like, for example, a lot of clubs might do this. We had a separate budget for sending out flowers when people had deaths in the family or if they were in the hospital, just little things like that. And that's what our membership committee focused on, is just Jennifer Jones calls it comfort and care. We just said, take care of our members. And they did not focus on recruiting. We let the service projects do the recruiting. People would show up and they want to be part of that energy. Does that answer your question, Nancy? I think that was your Nancy, right? And so the real quick answer is convert your membership committee from recruiting to comfort and care. Then that makes it, you have people that show up at an event whose sole job is to do it. And then of course, if they get other club members to do it, that's great. But if you at least have a membership chair doing it, that's one person that's usually not doing it. And then you got those there's a lot of caring people in a Rotary club. They don't want to recruit, but they will definitely be friends with somebody. So have a friendship committee, and their job is to form friends with the new members. A lot of times we want to call it like the mentoring or mentoring. Makes it too formalized sometimes. Sometimes people just want to be, because we did that. We tried a mentoring committee. The problem we had was we had so much growth. We ran out of mentors. So we had basically 1-month-old club members mentoring the new one, because we were adding 4 people a month during that first year. And we only started with 20 people. It's so quickly. So then we said, okay, we just want you to be friends with them. Well, of course, you're new to Rotary, but just get to know them, find out if they're going to show up at an event and show up with them. That's what people wanted to see. And then we kind of created that attitude of everybody get to know the new members, just to make sure everybody has a friend. Whenever we got a new member, we would, when we got an application, we send out an email to the entire club with their name, their email address and phone number, and a little blurb about them. And everybody would call and text or email just to say hi. Do you know how cool that is? When you turn in an application and you've got 10, 15 people saying, hey, welcome to the club, welcome to the club. People remember that kind of stuff. Dave, you had your hand up.
You know, I just wanted to share something that our club does. And frankly, and those of you who have traveled our district, I don't think there's another club in our district that does this. And it's such a simple thing to make a visitor feel very welcome, and frankly, to make our existing members feel welcome by the others. We have a reception line every meeting. You check in, you
That's
assume
cool.
that's the first spot in the reception line. The next person checks in, they shake hands with the first person, then they get into the next spot. Everybody greets everybody else as they come in for the club meeting. And frankly, we get people that show up probably 15, 20 minutes early, just so they can get in that darn line to have a chance to visit with everybody as they come through the door and before breakfast starts. And it's such a simple thing to do. And it does make people feel really good and really welcome, especially someone who's attending a club meeting for the very first time, to say, man, this is really a friendly club.
What a
So-
fun group. Exactly. So those are the ways you make it more infectious, but you almost have to institutionalize the infection. Like, they had it. This is what we do. So it wasn't like, oh, we could do it sometimes. This is our thing, and so that's what we had our membership committee come up with. And I would always ask Roxana, that's her name, think of other ways we can do to connect our members. What we used to do is once a month, we would dedicate a meeting to networking, and it would basically be different games. And that's what she would do. We have games that people would just meet, and just to get everybody connected when they would show up there. So,
And
What are-
I'll
go for it,
just
Nancy.
add, our club has been doing, we call it a Building Better Friendships meeting every quarter. And it's exactly that, competitions and fun things. We also started, so for new members, we always, during their induction ceremony, they kind of do a thumbnail sketch, or they introduce themselves to the club. We instituted a Rotarian of the Day last year, so that other Rotarians who've maybe been in the club for a long time also have an opportunity to stand in front of the group, and we have questions for them to answer, but they get 5 minutes to sort of introduce themselves to everybody, even if they've been there for 30 years.
That's awesome. Almost like a reduced classification talk,
Yeah, yep.
which now we don't really promote classification.
What's a classification again?
Oh, or is that a joke? So before I move on, I would like everybody to go back to their clubs, specifically go to your membership chair and talk to them about, let's focus on some retention of our existing members, than people that have been in Rotary 3 years or less. And I guarantee you, it's a lot easier than recruiting. And if the way you present it to them, they're probably like, well, that's great, we could do that. Or they get somebody on their committee to do the same. Say, hey, your job is to get to know our newer members and connect them with other people. Do you guys think that's something that's doable? Do I have any head shakes, yes or no? Like, nope, it's not possible. Well, good. You guys are going to be the, what do we call it? The ambassadors, the retention ambassadors in the district, because it really is easy to do.
And Dave, I'm thinking that this could easily be a first Thursday educational opportunity about membership.
Right.
Take care of our people. Awesome. Well, now that I'm getting used to this slide situation, I got to move it. I have 3 monitors, and Zoom doesn't like multiple monitors. So when you do things, it flips it around. So there we talked about what you can do. So now let's look at this picture. Here's another picture of different service projects. Let's talk about, like, let me pull up my little pointer here. This was actually a shoe drive we did. We partnered with an organization. We collected shoes. They actually paid us for the shoes. Like, we're talking pennies on the shoes. But the organization sent the shoes to third world countries and partnered with, basically promoted micro entrepreneurship. So I think these shoes that we collected went to Haiti, and they would, with a Haitian resident that has a business that's selling shoes, because what we don't use are great shoes in the country Haiti. And then our club took the proceeds, and we partnered with a church, and helped restore a roof of a resident that couldn't afford to get it done. And the city notified us that she needed help, but she was, missing code enforcement stuff. So we really accomplished multiple, one, we promoted local economies, area focus with micro entrepreneurship. And then we also did it locally by helping somebody with the roof. And these are young people. Here, this was a project, if you see my little circle, we partnered with the city of Plano. I'm talking about these because last time we talked about partnerships. So here we partnered with the city. They used their COVID funds to create these flyers that provided information on COVID vaccinations. Texas, because we're Texas, our wonderful governor made it illegal for cities to encourage people to get vaccinated. They could only tell them about the vaccination. So that's what these flyers are. And I'm really involved with our city, and talking with one of our assistant city managers, apparently the vaccination rates in the Hispanic communities were really low. And so we worked with the city, they paid for the flyers. They also had their departments do research, and they identified where the predominantly Hispanic communities were, neighborhoods and apartment complexes. Then they had the police force work with us to kind of clear the way, like with the apartment complexes, and make sure everything was safe. And then we recruited volunteers. I think we did this over a couple months. We had, I think, between 15 to 30 volunteers every week to deliver the flyers. Well, after the project was done, the assistant city manager told me we increased vaccination rates for the Hispanic communities by something like 15% with that project. Once again, the city paid for it all, but we did the labor. Here we partner with the school district and these all food projects. This particular one, we partnered with the school district. They let us use one of their schools in one of the low-income areas. We partnered with the food bank and they gave us 1,500 meals. And then we put together, I think, about 75 volunteers, and we just gave away food. Of course, they were the team that did a lot of advertising. But basically, between the school district and the food pantry, they did all the purchasing and buying. We just had the volunteers. So I wanted to talk about that because last week we talked about the power of partnering. We just brought the volunteers. But then when we had all these volunteers, when I look at like the majority of these people in all these pictures, well, these two were members, but everybody else were non-members. So the question is, what do you do when you've got non-members showing up at an event? And these are obviously service project events. And that's what I want to talk about now, is the whole recruitment aspect. And so when you think of that analogy of a Rotary Club as a business, and our members are our employees, my question to the group, just one person can answer, what is our product? And if you don't remember, I'll put up something to remind you. What is our
Service.
product? Yes, we provide service to others. That's our product. A lot of Rotary clubs don't know that, but that is our product. So who are our clients? Our volunteers, because the agencies we partner with, their clients are the end users. We as Rotary clubs, we don't really deal with the end users. That's what agencies do. But we have volunteers, they're our clients, and they come from the community. So when you think they're our clients, we need to focus on customer satisfaction. Just in that the membership committee, retention on our existing employees, well, on our clients who are our volunteers, which also happen to be members, they are our customers. So then a satisfied customer is the best business strategy at all. So the question is, what can you do? So if we have a service project and you have non-Rotarians there, without asking them to join Rotary, because that's one thing we don't want to do on a first date, what can we do to make them feel part of the family? Oh, you also can't say get them a t-shirt. So we're going to go through the group and talk about what do we do with new. I put behind me, this is a nice little background of all our different service projects. So if we got all these people showing up, how can you make them feel part of the Rotary family when they show up? Nancy.
I would ask, so how did you hear about this? How did you hear about this? What's your connection?
Exactly. That's powerful. Anybody else?
One thing that I learned running an electronic newspaper is that people love seeing pictures of themselves, and taking their picture at a service project and posting it on a website and sending them a link can be very valuable.
It is, assuming you get a waiver that gives you permission to
Right.
use their likeness.
Yeah.
Remember, I talked about that last week too.
Well, unless it's coverage of a news event, you don't need the waiver.
If you're taking someone's picture, you do if you're going to reuse it, especially if there's kids involved.
But not at a legitimate news event.
I'd be careful trying to find an exception.
Well, I'm out of the news business now, but I use that very often when I was.
Well, the challenge is Rotary clubs aren't news organizations. And so I don't know if that would work, but in general,
But boy,
Rotary
yeah,
International will tell you to get
Mm.
approval. Like Rotary International will
Right.
not use any pictures unless they sign a waiver
Mhm.
to use their likeness. And they don't say, well, unless it's a news event, they just say, get it done. So I would encourage you to use that rationale, always get it done that they sign off on it, especially if it's a kid. Julia Wale.
As I mentioned before, I would have a second date.
So ask them to show
I
up.
think
That's
something
phenomenal.
else.
Nancy.
I'm speaking for Nancy Hikes, who put in the chat, asked for feedback on how the work went for them. If we did something like this again, what might work even better?
People love that because that means you respect their opinion. Otherwise, you wouldn't be asking it. So now you have to give one, Nancy.
Oh, I would, I would ask them if they'd like to come to a club meeting. I mean, that's the second date maybe Julia's talking about, but it depends on the interaction.
This may be a little off topic, Alex, but I really believe that almost every service project does have intrinsic news value. And in the environment of journalism today, where 50,000 news reporting positions have been eliminated in 5 years, and 2 newspapers are closing every week in America, supplied news, community delivered news has a great opportunity to make it onto TV and radio stations and into newspapers. So sending something about the service project to local media will generate coverage. And that simply takes what good work you do and removes the bushel from the candle and allows an exponential number of people to know the good work that Rotary is doing.
Very true. That's a great public image topic. So
Not for you tonight, I know.
We're going to talk about when somebody's showing up your event, what are you going to say or do with them to make them feel part of the Rotary family? Dennis, you were looking intently, so I'm going to call on you. Maybe not. Do we have any volunteers? What else do you do when you have a visitor show up at a service project to make them feel part of the family? You're still muted, Dennis.
If
There
they
we
have
go.
some specific skills to make our project better.
Exactly.
Do you have
And
some
once again,
advice?
that makes them feel needed.
Hmm.
And somebody will be interested and joining an organization that needs them.
Well, and this is really simple and basic, but say thank you.
With a handwritten note. There we go. Seriously, that would be pretty amazing if every volunteer got a handwritten note. And why wouldn't you do that? You know, because they donated their time and effort and they're helping, you know, save the world with you. Barb, did you give one? I didn't think you gave one. You're muted.
Actually, this is a tough question because with our club, what we do is we latch on to other stuff that's going on in the community. So we don't necessarily have a ton of people from outside our club. You know what I mean? We are a service team within something bigger. But what we try to do when we're at an event, I'll just give an example. We're going to have a Place of Peace meal coming up in March where we serve. We make sure that we wear our Rotary shirts and we engage people and talk about Rotary if there's a possibility. But we don't do a full-blown service event where we're recruiting people from the community to come and work with us.
Well, see, that's what we're trying to change, Barb. You don't need a full-blown event. If you need 5 volunteers, try to get 4 from the community, because that's how you're going to grow your club. Because if those 5 volunteers are already in the club, there's no growth opportunity. So what you guys are doing is great. Just try to get people you don't know to show up.
Okay, good idea.
And then when they show up, then what would you say to them to make them want to show up again or get to be your friend? That's really what it is.
It was great having you. We'd really like to keep in contact, that kind of thing. Just chit chat it up with them and ask them what their what other things do you do in the community that are interesting?
Exactly. That's huge. And the key is don't ask them to join Rotary. And if they're at a service project, are they more likely interested in service or a meeting?
Mm-hmm.
So invite them to another service project because that's where their interest is. You know, when someone shows up to a meeting, well, they probably like meetings, you know, so stick with where their interest level is and then facilitate that, make it about them. Because like I said, the majority of people that I like, not majority, I can't count my wife, but no, she only joined Rotary because of our service. When our club changed, then she was interested in it. But the service is what really attracts people. And I never invite somebody to a meeting. I used to a long time ago and it wasn't very productive. Now I invite them to go to a service project. Hey, come help us do this, come help them do that. Because it's not a pitch and they don't usually have to skip work for it or anything like that, or spend money on a lunch or, you know, and they could bring somebody with them. And so that's always such a low commitment thing to come serve. Now, if they say, I'm not really interested in serving, well, then that doesn't mean they won't make a good Rotarian, but they're interested in some other aspect of Rotary. You know, that's really the key. Meet people where they are. But if they're like when someone's at a meeting, that's a different approach. You know, you can invite them to the service project, but obviously they have the time and the ability to go to meetings. So the same things you would do at a meeting. You know, what do you think? Like when someone shows up, you know, get to know them. I remember, because I do a lot of club visiting just for the sake of it. And I remember when I showed up at a club meeting that happens to be the DMC meeting, she made sure she was just really great, introduced me. She had to leave early. I was basically on my own. Nobody else talked to me anymore. And I'm like, my wife's like, this isn't really, she was with me. It's like, this isn't really a friendly club, is it? Well, then a couple of days later, we visited another club in that district and they were just all over us the entire meeting. She's like, what a completely different club. Yeah, that's the way Rotary is. But, you know, when even as a 20-year Rotarian, and I was just there, you know, to visit because we happened to be on vacation, and the welcoming difference was big deal. And so who else do we have left? Dennis.
I would suggest, and I'll use an example in which I think our club missed the boat with me. is if we have people that have specific skill sets, we should invite them to share those, and especially since I've been out of the legal practice for almost 20 years, the local Hispanic Resource Center. I went to Mexico and learned Spanish about 20 years ago. And there is no attorney in Green Bay who volunteers their service free in dealing with undocumented and our Hispanic community. They have harnessed my two skill sets, my ability to speak Spanish and my ability to provide legal assistance. And I don't have to sort socks. Not that that's a bad thing, but recruit people from the highest skill sets that they have. They feel great about a higher level of harnessing their energies.
Exactly. Here's a great example. We have a club member that we recruited him to be, we used to have a committee to do the district awards, you know, because I like winning. And so we had a committee. Well, he was an attorney. So it's his job to clean up all the award submissions. And he liked that. You know, he was, you know, he's like in his 30s, so he's still working for partner and all that. But he was good with doing that. Get in it, because, you know, lawyer, you guys like to read and rewrite things. And he did that, I think, for both years. And he was, because I talked to him like, you're going to do it again? It's like, yeah, it's not a big deal. I'm like, for you, for me, it's brain damage. So thank you very much. So exactly. And that's what he liked. He unfortunately didn't have a lot of time to serve, but meaning in a service project, like you said, sorting socks, but he was doing that and nobody knew he was doing that. You know, that was like one of those, what do we call that? Unsung heroes that I would always talk about in our meetings, because I always felt it was important to talk about the club members that were doing things that nobody knows what they're doing. I think, like Roger said, I'm too lazy to do handwritten notes and they couldn't read them, so I had to talk about it. Roger's being former journalist, so he writes well, obviously. Well, I think we covered everybody. And so what I want to do is go back to my screen and remind us, if you didn't know, let me pull this up. This is our vision statement, Rotary's vision statement, that represents us globally. Together, we see a world where people unite, so we're talking about now, take action, create lasting change across the globe, in our communities and in ourselves. And when you start looking at people uniting, that's our fellowship. Take action, create lasting change, that's obviously a service project. Let's see, I don't think you can see my little circle here. And then we talk about, boom, in our community, across the globe, in our communities, and then in ourselves. Well, how do we do something in ourselves? Well, that's our human resource department, isn't it? that's what, it's not like, you know, to recruit others, but, you know, if you look at the Learning Center for Rotary, it has so much self-development, leadership. Rotary has put millions and millions of dollars into our Learning Center, and it's soft skills now. They partnered with Toastmasters, and Toastmasters created courses just to try, because what they're trying to do is give us tools to help professional and personal development of our members, because the goal is, if people feel they're getting value out of our members, because think about it, we pay, what, I think about $83 a year each to Rotary International, and we get all that stuff. And everything outside that $83 is your district dues and all the fluff your club puts in it. But as Rotarians, all it takes is $83 plus your district dues to be a Rotarian. And we get all these great tools and opportunities. We, as club members, as club leaders, we need to introduce them to our members so they know. I don't have slides on this, but for example, you know, we have the Rotary Fellowships. I know Dave's and a few. I remember he and I sat, I don't know, it was a couple hours outside of the House of Friendship. And we're talking about all the different fellowships going on. Most members, most Rotary members that aren't in leadership don't know anything about the fellowships, how are they going to know? Because we tell them. I remember we had a club member, we brought in a lot of former interactors and Rotarians to join our club when they turned 18. And one of them, she was actually in pre-med, and I was telling her about the different fellowships. So she went through the list and she joined a fellowship for healthcare providers, got involved. They asked her to head up a special division for college students, which she did. And they also pay for her to go to the Houston convention and speak. All that is because she looked at the fellowship list and got involved. And that was what, I think she was 19 because she was a sophomore at the time, a 19-year-old. Well, adults do it too, but we got to tell people about it. That's part of our whole human resource thing. I remember as part of our member kit, we had a printout of all the different fellowships so people would know what they are. And we also had a printout of all the different training courses. And we put the non-Rotary training courses in front because we figured somebody new to Rotary doesn't really care about how to be a district governor or how to be a president, but how to speak, how to get along with other people, those soft skills. And so we let people know about it. Then we also talked about, hey, you can just go online and do it. We also had a budget that we would pay for any member to go to take any Rotary training. Those are soft skills. Isn't that what an HR department does? We need to do that as Rotary clubs. That's what makes people want to stay. When they see that you care about them, that you're trying to help them, and they kind of feel that little obligation as well. Wow, Rotary's doing all this for me. I should at least stay for it. So we are down to the last almost 15 minutes. My next slide is going to ask you, what have you learned in this last hour and 15 minutes? And I am going to, you see the slide? So I'm going to take it off so we can see everybody's pretty face. Can anybody tell me what they've learned in our last hour and 15 minutes? And what can you take back to your clubs? What have you learned that you can take back to your clubs? Let's be a little more intentional about it. David. Dave.
Well, this whole thing has just reinforced with me that even the smallest, littlest thing can make such a huge difference when it comes to member retention and making people feel good, making members feel good about their membership experience, as well as for recruiting folks who aren't members of Rotary, giving them a good feeling about what Rotary is. The simplest little thing, the handwritten note, the asking of a question, engaging in a conversation, figuring out exactly what it is they're interested in. These are all relatively simple, small things. But if we don't do them, we miss those opportunities. So this has been really helpful in reinforcing how important that is day to day.
It's kind of like that age-old thing, honey, you never tell me you love me. Well, you already know it. Well, we know that's always a failure, right? You got to say it. That's basically what Dave said. We know these things, but if we don't do it, anything else? What have you learned that you can take back to your club? Julia.
Patience. Just don't attack people just because you want to get your numbers up. Think of it as a long-term strategy. Exactly.
And honestly, you don't have to recruit anybody to keep your numbers up. Just don't lose anybody. That's really the biggie. If we didn't lose anybody, we'd be golden. You would have the banner year, actually. Patience. I like that.
I would second that.
Nope. You got to come up with something different.
Okay.
Nope.
I've been in Rotary almost 5 decades, and every few years we have a new description of the same values, which is very important. What Rotary was about 30 years ago, in the middle of getting women involved and the Polio Plus program, that is not the same Rotary that we live in today. We have learned from that, and we can't get locked into thinking that Rotary is a block of concrete that can't be changed. If you do the history of Rotary, Rotary has been successful because it has changed and adapted to the cultures over the years. I mean, I did some research on an excellent book. Rotary didn't start out with service above self. It was a bunch of old white guys who were trying to, find business buddies who could fill their pockets for them. But Rotary moved beyond, and Rotary must continue to find new ways to meet the same goals. And it's going to be different. And we're much more diverse. I mean, there was a time when there's only 3 people in our club that were members of Rotary before women were allowed. And I'll tell you, to look back at the dialogue at meetings before women were allowed is extremely embarrassing. But we've moved beyond. It's moved beyond. And it's not just looking back to see where we've changed, but what's the question for tomorrow? It's not going to be the same.
Definitely. Thank you. So anybody else, what have you learned that you can take back to your club?
Actually, one thing that I learned that you said, Alex, and that's the idea that if people are showing up for things, not necessarily meetings, but if they're showing up for other things, don't worry about it. And I think that's really important because particularly with younger people, they might not be as committed to a 7 a.m. meeting, but if you have a service project that they're interested in, or if you have a social event that they're interested in, they're going to show up. And we've had 3 different social events where we haven't had a humongous amount of people, but we've had about a third of our clubs, but all different people at each event other than me. And I was thinking about it and I was thinking, but you know what? That's pretty good because those people were engaged, different people were engaged every time. So I think it's the idea of don't go into orbit that you have to have all 28 people show up for every single thing because that's not going to happen.
That's a great insight. And it ties into Julia's patience as well. It's like, it's okay. You don't have to. I remember years ago, I was the district Interact chair, and I personally worked with we had like over 50 Interact clubs. And I worked with the students that were running it. And a lot of times, and I said, Rotary isn't about having big meetings. Because you have some clubs that have big meetings, everybody shows up and that's all they do. Then we have other clubs that have 5 people, but they do a lot of service. I go, the 5 people that do a lot of service, that's really Rotary. So don't get hung up that you don't have all these people in your club. It's just, what are you doing? As long as you're accomplishing something with what you have. Roger, have you not said what you have learned? I don't think you said it. I know you're.
I've learned, let me tell you, what I've learned is that Rotary needs to look at expending money as businesses need to look at advertising. And you mentioned that Rotary clubs need to invest in member experience and training. And it made me think that some clubs' boards are extremely parsimonious. They're tighter than a mosquito's anal sphincter stretched across a rain barrel. When it comes, Wisconsin mosquitoes are bigger than yours.
I'm from Alaska, by the way. Born and raised. Our mosquitoes trump your mosquitoes.
Never. But I think it's important to invest in things like your club has done, making training available, doing things like scholarships for dues, because Rotary is not affordable for many people that we really do need to attract, to reflect the diversity of our communities.
Actually, Rotary is affordable. It's Rotary clubs. Rotary,
right.
Like, what are your district dues in your district? 30 bucks?
District dues, I don't even know, but I know it costs someone over $1,000 a year.
What are your district dues? What are your district dues? 30, 35?
Gosh, you'd think I would know that, wouldn't you?
Typically, rule of thumb for our zone pair, $150 is what it costs to be a Rotarian between district dues and Rotary. What'd you say? And so $150 is what it costs to be a Rotarian. When it's above that, that's the club. So Rotary's only too expensive because clubs make it that way, but Rotary is not.
But my point is that I believe it's got value for us to think about paying membership dues for people that would make our clubs more diverse, more equitable, more inclusive. I also think that for
Or
clubs
clubs
like ours,
reduce their costs so they don't price it
Well-
out of everybody. That's where I was
Well-
getting.
it costs $640 to belong to our club without making any contribution to any other, a local foundation that some clubs have, or the Rotary Foundation. But if you want visibility, like shirts and Rotary hats and things that you do on all your service projects, it takes money. Our club made $15,000 on a trip that took 21 Rotarians or associated friends on a trip to Ireland and Scotland, and we're going to do one to Sicily this coming October. And I think it's important to allocate that money to specific causes, like educating members, making it possible for more, for example, a president nominee to go to pets, not just the president-elect, for membership.
Roger, I don't want to
scholarships.
interrupt you, but we're running out of time and you're going way off topic.
Well, you asked me what I
Because we only
learned,
have
and
about
that's
7
what I
minutes
learned.
left. I
Yeah.
want to make sure we cover everybody. And Nancy wants like the last, how many minutes? Because you want me to quit like 5 minutes early, right?
We're good. We're good. Hey, I just wanted to add from Nancy Hikes in the chat. Her comment was humility to listen and follow ideas of new volunteers. And my learning is to make sure that everybody feels welcome. And I really want to do a shout out for Tammy, who is on the call, not able to participate by video, but she's not from our district. She's from Prairie du Chien. And
Where
so
is
I
that?
wanted to make sure, that is District 6250, about a good 3 hours from where I live. And so Tammy, welcome. Just a special welcome
Yay.
to you, and hope you can join us next week.
So that is Mike's district, right, Phillips? Or it's
Ben's.
Ben's district.
Ben,
Yeah, Ben was supposed to be advertising this. Obviously, he did not.
he
Well-
did, because Tammy's here.
Tammy's from Ben's district.
Well, Ben's not here. He's got to lead by example. I'm going to call him out on that. That's awesome. Well, thank you, Tammy, that you are representing your district. Who else has not gone? A lesson learned that you can take back to your club. Did we get everybody? No, we did not. Diane, go for it, Diane.
Okay, mine isn't really a lesson learned, but it's a lesson that's been reiterated, and that is the value of human contact, where you can stand next to another person and talk to them. And everyone here has had wonderful ideas that you can introduce while you're there, but it's a lot better when you're standing next to them than when you are on the phone or a Zoom meeting or anything else like that.
So that sounds like a great, what are you going to take back to your club with what you just said? Because that's
What I-
really doable.
And it's probably, I wouldn't say it to the club, but I would provide opportunities for them to be together as a team. And I'll give you just a real quick 1-minute synopsis. This summer, our Rotary Club, we painted an apartment building for the low-income housing people. And we invited volunteers, and I recruited a volunteer, a young man that I've known for many years. And he came and worked hard. And when he was done, he said, I really like this. I have learned so much from all of you. He owns a company, mid-sized company. He's single. And what he saw was the camaraderie, the teamwork as Rotarians, as we worked. He was going to take that back to his workplace, institute that idea with his employees, human resource, if you will. And when he gets a little further down the road with his company, he's going to probably come back and join our club.
Awesome. So Barb, that was us talking about what happens when you get people you don't know to show up at your projects. And they will be future. Well, Diane, couldn't you like ask your membership chair to implement some of these, because that's their job. Say, hey.
And next year we can ask that person.
So the person this year doesn't want to meet anybody?
Pardon?
The person this year doesn't want to like meet anybody? Because we're really
Well-
just saying, be friends with the people that show up, be nice to them.
Yeah, well, everybody is a prospective member. We're all membership people.
Yeah, so they should just be intentional. When you have somebody new, intentional, go out, because it's their job. That's the membership chair's job. And so I don't know why you don't want to tell them about it, but hopefully you'll figure out a way, because if they do it, then that's where that infectious happens. And especially if they have a committee, which they probably have a committee too. So it makes it really exciting that way.
Indeed. Indeed.
Well, let me finalize this to what we did last week was partnering with nonprofits. This week, comfort and care. And then tomorrow, not tomorrow, next Thursday, how to invite the public, because we kind of talked around that, how to get these non-Rotarians to show up and help you out on these projects. And we're going to talk about that. And Roger, you know, this is really a public image subject, because that's how you get a hold of, that's how you sell your product, is using marketing, which is public image. So once again, I'm Alex Johnson. These are my two regional roles: Innovative Club Advocate, Assistant Rotary Coordinator. The Rotary Coordinator thing, I'm really the Assistant Rotary Coordinator for new clubs, but the Innovative Club Advocate is why I'm here. Helping districts strategy, implement new ideas with their clubs. And that is that. So with 3 minutes left, I'm going to turn it over to the queen of training, Nancy, and her
All right.
awesome beanie.
So I want to just share that Tammy put in the chat. Why aren't there more people on this who was supposed to be invited? So who was invited was everybody from all members from 6220, our district, and through the district governors of 6250 and 6270 members as well. So I would encourage all of you to invite friends, your Rotary friends, to join us next Thursday. The topic next Thursday is
Invite the public.
using public image to get non-Rotarians to show up. So I want to thank Alex. Great job once again. Thank you all for being here. We truly appreciate it. I also want to add one more thing. We talked about the Learning Center through Rotary International. Our first Thursday educational opportunity on March 2nd. We will be having a rep from RI coming to do a tour of the Learning Center. So please mark your calendars for that. Barb, go ahead.
Just a quick question. So I'm going to announce this at our meeting tomorrow. How, if people didn't sign up in advance, how can they sign up for next week's session?
I'm sure that
Because
I think Lisa will be sending out another reminder email to
Okay.
everybody, so they should just check their email, click the link and sign up.
Okay.
And
It's
more
already-
importantly,
It's already
Nancy,
in that email list, so
Well-
you should be able to get it.
can we
Okay.
make sure that people know that you're recording them and they're posted on your web? Because we had a few people here, but the recordings could get thousands of people
Yes.
watching. So that's where I
Yes.
think the real PR needs to be, is let people know they're up there and they can watch whenever they want.
And Lisa's announcement about the last of this session, she did say that we do have these recordings available. Just contact Lisa for the link.
Cool.
But we need to figure out where we can post those so they're publicly accessible. So
Yes.
I'll be talking to Lisa about that.
Are they all on Dave's phone right now or something?
They're on the cloud. All
When
right.
Dave shows up at your club, he will show you the video.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much, Alex. Awesome
Good night,
job.
and
We'll see
thank
you all
you.
next week.
See you next week.
Have a good night.
Stay warm.